How did you get into this field?
It was not my forte. I didn't enjoy it.
What would you want to become when you grow up?
A sports journalist at one point of time.
How do I discover what I would want to do?
The 70-20-10 rule. I think you would have made a great doctor.
How important is this first job?
But it is not the be-all, end-all.
What are some of the parameters that they choose to kind of evaluate the job?
Compensation is for the current task you do. It is not for your potential.
What are some of the mistakes that students especially end up doing?
You have to step out of your comfort zone.
This is not what I studied for.
The world is out there to explore.
A lot of them grow well in the initial stages, but they see stagnation.
It is really important to take ownership and not be a victim. How do you communicate your projects? How do you communicate your ideas? How do you communicate your design? How do you influence changes?
This is a question for our, I would say, HR and recruitment fraternity.
It's a very integral part of HR. It's the backbone of HR. Think about your desires. Think about your passion.
I kind of went through this journey of my college, interview, career, and so on and so forth.
I hope it is helpful to the student fraternity, to the HR fraternity.
Hello everyone and welcome to Architects of Great Talent, the podcast series by Careernet Group. I'm your host today, Pasupathi, and today we are unpacking a question that has shaped countless career journeys and sparked just as many debates. Does your first job truly influence the rest of your career? It's a moment most of us remember: the excitement, the uncertainty, and the weight of the very first offer letter. Should you optimize for pay or learning? And how much of your long-term success can actually be traced back to that one decision? To help us reflect on these questions, we are joined by Nidhi Sharma, Managing Director and India Head of HR at AQR Capital Management. Nidhi brings over 20 years of experience in HR and organization leadership. She has helped set up India operations, built HR functions from the ground, and driven strategic value well beyond traditional HR. At AQR, she plays a key role in shaping the people agenda. And today, she brings a grounded, insightful perspective on how early career choices can shape long-term growth. Welcome, Nidhi.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I feel part of HR's responsibility is just not doing HR but also giving back. So if this conversation is helpful to anyone out there, then I'd be really happy with some of the points that I look forward to sharing today.
Of course, we have interacted a lot in the past, but I thought today we'll have a conversation. Given now it's campus season, there are a lot of students who are applying for various jobs, and there are a lot of questions. There's a certain level of anxiety as well, given how the market conditions are. So we thought today we'll primarily talk about careers in general and probably focus more on the first job, how people start their careers, and how really would it be. And we thought you'd be the best person because if you look at your entire career, you started off with recruitment, you've done a lot of college hiring, you've done a lot of lateral hiring, also started off for a lot of organizations from scratch, brought it up to the current level, and also playing a HR leader's role now. Accidental, or was it planned, or how did it happen for you?
Partly accidental, partly planned. Planned in the sense that I was very clear about what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and what I want to do and what I don't want to do. And what I didn't want to do is a STEM career.
Okay.
I was very clear that I'm not cut out for engineering, medicine, mathematics. It was not my forte. I didn't enjoy it. I tried doing it, but it just wasn't cut out for me. I really enjoyed my conversations with people. I really enjoyed listening to them, some of the challenges that people had and how to help them overcome that. So that was the planned part. The planned part is self-awareness. And sometimes it comes in college, sometimes it comes in school, sometimes it comes in post graduation. But I sort of knew what my strengths and weaknesses were. And then the bit that was accidental was that my father used to work in a public sector unit, and there were a couple of very strong women who were working, who were doing their internship in BEML as students. But I would say that very strong-minded female students who had a lot of aspiration and ambition, and my father was very impressed by them, and he urged me to meet them so that I can get some mentorship, some guidance. So that was my first forte into mentorship and guidance, and I did speak to them, and I was really inspired by them, and that also made me think that it ties well into my strengths, as well as it seems like an exciting opportunity to be in human resources, and it can definitely lead me to places. Is the gut feel that I had. So yeah, partly planned, partly fate, and partly my father's guidance.
No, it's good that you at least were able to figure out something little early on,
Yeah.
and then kind of build a career. As you'd recollect, when we were kids, we would generally be asked this question: what would you want to become when you grow up? And at least I remember most of the times telling people I don't know.
Yeah.
At the same time, we also had very standard career options back in those days. You either get into engineering or medicine, or you get into government jobs, which was a very sector. If you have to give some kind of an advice to the youngsters to say, how do I figure out what I am good at, or where do you really could really go? Because obviously in today's world, I mean, one thing is very clear. Probably the way we would start our career, or rather the first job, is not going to be a really long-term thing where the career will also be built in that manner. So what you do in your first 5 years might be very different from what you do in the next 10 years, 15 years, and so on. But if you could give some broad guidelines, ideas to the youngsters to say, how do I discover what I would want to do? I know it's a very tough question, and also as parents we have to do this sometimes for our kids.
Yeah.
But any thoughts that you have saying what could be some framework that you would use, either process of selection or elimination, to figure out where do you think I should be wanting to go?
Spend a little time in introspection when you do things. It's just not related to academics or studies, which are absolutely important because that is sort of the foundation of your course, and your GPA and your percentage, everything is looked at. So don't ignore that part. But if you have the opportunity to do a project,
Okay.
if you have the opportunity to do an internship, if you have the opportunity to work with a professor, if you have the opportunity to work with somebody next to you, your peer, on anything, use that as the process of self-discovery. That, do I like working with someone? Do I listen? Do I like to contribute ideas? Am I open enough to get feedback? Am I open enough to change? Am I adaptable? Or am I stuck in what I want to do, and do I push my ideas through? Just sit back, come back home, sit back and think, so how did I spend my day? What did I like? What did I not like? So use those as an opportunity of self-reflection. What do you like watching? Do you like watching science fiction? Do you like watching something which causes you to be curious and discover more? What do you like reading? What kind of people do you like hanging out with? I think all those data points collectively together can lead you to a discovery journey of self-discovery and self-awareness.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing that you pointed out about internships, because back in those days, internship was something that you would do probably in your third year.
Yeah,
or
third
say so on.
semester,
But
yeah.
today, I mean, it's a very interesting thought that you brought about, especially even for school kids.
Yeah.
They could figure out how they would want to spend their time on a certain activity and figure out whether it interests them or not. So,
Absolutely. Actually, learning, I've always believed in the 70-20-10 rule. Everybody is aware of it, but it's just not formal training programs, but also in life.
Yeah.
70% of what you learn is on the job.
Yeah, correct.
20% can be through somebody teaching you training programs, and 10% through mentorship. So I would say that any opportunity that school kids get, college, first semester, doesn't matter. Big, small, doesn't matter. You help run somebody run a small project, that's absolutely fine. You have a small part to play in that, that's absolutely fine. But focus more on trying to get as much opportunity to learn along with your core curriculum. Of course, don't ignore the core curriculum, because that also has a role to play.
Got it. So, a little hypothetical question, assuming you had not kind of gone this path, looking back, what do you think could have been an alternate career for you?
Actually, since I knew that STEM was not my forte and I wouldn't enjoy that, I was really interested in tennis.
Okay.
And I used to follow tennis crazily. But then I also knew that competitive tennis is not my, like, I wouldn't enjoy playing competitive tennis. I didn't want to get into sports. So I did think of becoming a sports journalist.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and traveling around the world, following, all the matches, the players, journaling their highs, their lows, and what are some of the things that they need to do to be resilient, and how do they come back from, a game that they feel that they can't win. So I did want to be a sports journalist at one point of time.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And more specifically, cover tennis.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I've been asked this question as well, and many times I told people probably I would have chosen medicine as a profession.
Wow.
So, because it's very fascinating to understand, the human body, the way it works, and being in the industry, I also feel it's fairly recession-proof as well.
I think you would have made a great doctor.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, and I always keep telling people I've got a hospital and this office next to each other.
You can still do that.
Yeah. Sure. So Nidhi, given that this is the college hiring season, I'm sure there's a lot of stress for the students, especially the fourth year students, and also for the third year students, because they're trying to figure out where they would want to go for their internships, what really do this. Maybe if you could touch upon 2-3 elements. One, you'd like to understand, first of all, how important is this first job? For a lot of them, it's a continuation of their education. Second, what are some of the parameters that they choose to kind of evaluate the job? And what are some of the mistakes that students especially end up doing? So maybe if you could cover all these 3 elements, that would really be great.
To your question, it is definitely a very stressful time for students at this point of time. They are making choices which is very important. They've studied for it. They worked really hard. Parental expectation, peer pressure. So this is an immensely stressful time for people. But I would say that in my experience, I feel the first job is in many ways important, and many ways it is not as defining as people make it out to be. And I'll just elaborate a little bit on that. Why is it defining? It builds the foundation of many things that you will use in the future, many attributes of yourself that you will use in the future. For example, you'll gain a lot of confidence when you do things on your first job. Oh, I'm able to work. I'm able to fit into the corporate ecosystem. I'm able to learn from seniors. I'm able to understand what they say, and I'm able to translate that into an actual work product. So it builds a lot of confidence. You will able to communicate with people, possibly locally, possibly globally. You may get a lot of global exposure, which might be slightly restricted when you are working in a college environment. You'll build a strong network. You'll get to know people. You'll get to know what they do, and then that opens new horizons of, oh, maybe I can try doing something different, right? You'll build influencing skills. So it's really important from a building your foundational skills perspective, building your confidence. But what it is not defining is that careers don't always follow a linear path.
Correct.
You can pivot at any given point of time. So once you get to know what you like, you don't like, you can always pivot, you can always do something different and carry your first job's experience into your future jobs. And also employers, right? When we hire people, we also look at variability in somebody's resume. What all different things you have done. What are the different skill sets that you've picked up? What are the different projects that you have worked on? So getting that variability over a period of time is also important. Your next part of the question was So
compensation, for example, in college, the company which is paying the highest is the best employer. That's the general perception that people have. Plus, as you rightly said, there's a lot of influence from the seniors, the parents, and the
Yeah.
society to say that these are tier 1 companies, tier 2 companies, and so on. So, but it's a full basket, right? So,
Yeah.
how people evaluate those elements? So that really,
Yeah. So I would say that let's look at three elements that you brought up. One is role,
yeah,
one is brand, third is compensation. These are the three things that play on people's mind when they are going for a campus interview like scenario, or any job interview for that matter. I would say that the role always outweighs everything else. What is the role that you're going to perform? What is the learnability in that role? What is the skill set that you will develop? And what is it that you can do more broadly versus doing something very micro? For example, you may join a great brand, but your role may be very, 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 very small, or it may limit your ability to perform tasks on a day-to-day basis.
and
because
you miss the big picture as well, right?
yeah, and you
Because
miss
you're
the
just-
big strategy, the big
Correct.
picture. So I think the first fundamental thing that people can evaluate, and they can always do that by asking more questions and not being desperate that this is the first thing that comes my way and I'm going to pick that up. Interview is not a one-way process. Interview is a two-way process.
Absolutely, yeah.
And nowadays, everybody is very open to students asking more questions, students getting into more detail. I think they have access to a lot of, they have a lot of tools, so from a social media perspective, internet perspective, to get to know about role and company. But always, role always outweighs the brand, and it always outweighs the compensation. The second would definitely be brand. Brand is important, but it is not the be all end all. If somebody is offering you a great role and their brand is still upcoming, they're still getting to know things in the Indian market, they're still getting established, pivot towards the role.
A lot of times there's these questions that are asked as well, right? Should I join a startup versus a large organization? A larger organization probably gives me certain learnings.
Yeah.
Startup gives me a very different kind of a pace
Yeah.
and adrenaline rush. So it's a very subjective thing, but that's exactly most of the times the students generally tend to think that joining a startup is cool, whereas joining a large enterprise is not so cool. It's a basket. You need to figure out which is the one that you choose, rather than saying that advantages, disadvantages.
Absolutely.
Kind of
And
thing.
it's not like you can't pivot from a startup to a established GCC or the reverse. But I would say that gain as much experience as you can in the first few years of your career. But now I don't advise switching jobs
Yeah.
very often. But within the organization, what are different things that you can do? Talk to as many people as you can. People have become very, very centric in their own worlds. I see that especially post-COVID.
Okay. Yeah.
Where the communication or the the desire to go and speak to different people, getting to know what they do, what's happening, the broader context of the organization, where it is heading from a strategic standpoint, get all that information, try different things, and then you can absolutely figure that out over a period of time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very interesting case where there's a friend of mine. So he joined an organization, and within 6 months he decided, not even 6 months, it was just 3 months, and they decided to kind of move on. And I suggested just hang on, give it some more time. Now it's almost 25, 26 years, and he heads the function at a global level now. Same organization, 25 years. And it's purely because the tasks that he was asked to do in the first 6 months, he felt this is not what I studied for, and this is not what I should be doing. Actually, people need to invest in their careers, not really to expect results so soon.
I think the last thing that they should have in mind is compensation and title. Compensation is for the current task you do. It is not for your potential. And if you upskill aggressively, if a student upskills aggressively, once they join the organization, they know the direction the organization is taking, the direction the industry is taking. If they upskill aggressively, if they continue to perform, if they continue to understand that where they fit into the big picture, and even if they are doing a smaller task, how that fits into the big picture, compensation generally takes care of itself. And title, I would say, just doesn't have a bearing.
Absolutely.
So I would say always start off with the role, look at the brand, and to your point around startup and large organizations, you also learn a lot of processes,
In the larger
systems.
organization as compared to a startup,
Yeah,
obviously.
and this is not about startups, but also integrity based, the way you work with integrity, how you are accountable to regulators, how you are accountable to your organization's policy framework, also defines what discipline you inculcate in yourself. So I think those are also important value systems that you learn in different organizations that bring in different perspectives.
So Nidhi, that was actually well summarized. I mean, the takeaway I see is that students should look at building the fundamentals as skills, rather than saying that my fundamental is to build a baseline compensation. So you can grow your skills from there,
Yeah.
and that will kind of really
And not focus on like, am I joining a senior software engineer
yeah,
title?
yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
title is probably the least of the
Least.
things that
Yeah.
people could really look at. Interesting. So now moving on to the next phase of life, when somebody has spent maybe a year, 2 years, or 3 years, so they have this somewhere this notion that I need to change my job, and the general thing that people believe is that I've come in, I've understood, I've learned, and I need to, as part of my career progression, I need to necessarily switch the job. Of course, some of them might have some valid reason as well.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts, any advice on, is it necessary, when should be done, what really should be done for people in terms of building a long-term career?
I absolutely believe that it is not a necessity.
Correct.
But few reasons why someone may want to leave, and rightly so could be if the environment is very toxic, if the person is just not able to lead a decent life while working there, and that is their aspiration, or if there are other personal reasons. I feel like there are absolutely avenues to explore things within the organization in today's day and age. Whether it is as aggressively as someone would look for a job outside, I ask them, have you looked for opportunities internally first? Rather than coming under the peer pressure that everybody in my batch now at the 3-year mark is looking for a new opportunity externally. And I'll give you an example. Like, I spent 14 years in an organization, and I did 5 to 6 roles there. 5 to 6 different roles. And why would I want to go and establish myself in a brand new organization when my current organization is giving me those opportunities, when my current organization is giving me the platform, the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to interact with senior people, to play to my strengths and realize my potential? If those things can happen within the organization, absolutely try for that first before exploring externally. But for that, you have to step out of your comfort zone. If any student thinks that they are going to be offered their next role even within the current organization, it may happen. There are frameworks of internal mobility, job portals and stuff like that. But even if that's not happened, get out of your comfort zone, step out of your comfort zone, go talk to people, go network, find out what's happening in other teams, find out what's happening in other business units, and how you could apply for them. Talk to your HR, talk to mentors, peers, but all that takes effort. And finding a job externally could be sometimes much easier, and it's also the way their peer pressure would approach things. So then they tend to take that. But I definitely don't think that's a necessity. Try and find whether you've exhausted all possibilities within the same organization, and then if that doesn't happen, then the world is out there to explore.
It's a very interesting thing that you spoke about, where people could look for an alternate career option within the organization. So many times we have instances where somebody would say, I've done this kind of a job profile, I would want to switch, and hence I'm looking out. And the example that I give to people is like, you are like the king on the chessboard. Your ability to move is just one step in front or one step on the side, which is to change your career path. And career paths get changed in familiar environments,
Yeah.
not in an unfamiliar environment.
Absolutely.
So it is your current organization which will probably
Yeah.
allow you to switch the careers, because they're probably allowing it that, or they're
Yeah.
giving you that opportunity because they know you.
Absolutely, and that comes to that credibility part. If you build
Precisely.
the credibility, people will take a bet on you and give you something brand new. Um, but externally, somebody is not going to take a bet on you right away to give you something brand new.
Absolutely.
So if you are able to do that within the same organization, why not?
Yeah. So it reminds me of story of my own experience. So I'd spent around 3 years in software development, and interestingly, the head of the HR had hired me from campus. So we had a good relationship that way. He knew me well, I knew him well. One day out of the blue, he came and asked me, why didn't you join my HR team? And I was shocked. I said, no, I mean, I'm a software developer. This is what I should be doing. And 4 years later, when I decided to join Careernet, he was the first person I called up. He had moved on from SAP, but I told him, and he said, see, I'd always told you that you should probably do something beyond software development, because probably he figured out that that's what I'm naturally good at, and I really love that job. So that happened. And to the fact that I could join Careernet, not purely because of my skills, but purely because of the familiarity, and people knew me well, so they knew that probably I could do this job.
Yeah.
Probably I would not have been able to join some other recruitment firm, or probably made that switch. So people exploring within the organization is a very, very important aspect, and that's a very good practice. If you see some of, I would say most of the organizations in India today have the internal job postings, and where they actually, especially the HR, encourages people to kind of move and look for jobs inside rather than trying to look for jobs outside.
Yeah, and it's also talking to people who fundamentally recognize your strengths. The more experienced people you talk to, they have the ability and the knack to say that, you have the fundamentals to make it in recruiting. You have the fundamentals to make it into an HR, the HR job market. So I think also talking to very experienced leaders, not shying away from communication, which I think is something that people should focus on, and not stay in the zone of, oh, this is my life and this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to stick to this.
I think all through the conversation there were 2-3 elements that you brought out, which I thought we should at least highlight. As part of your career building, apart from the fact that you focus on your skills, your discipline, you put in effort, I think the 2 key elements are networking and communication, where you talk to people so that you get more information rather than trying to figure out and doing things by yourself.
Absolutely, and I would say that communication is really important, even if you decide to do a technical career path.
Yeah, correct, absolutely.
How do you communicate your projects? How do you communicate your ideas? How do you communicate your design? How do you influence changes? How do you influence the organization to change course if you are trying to do something truly innovative and pioneering? So it is the one thing that I would really urge students to invest in early, and you can only invest in it if you try.
And start your networking in college, because
Absolutely.
that cohort
That
of 1,000 people,
yeah.
That I mean, everybody would be now picking up a different career path. You don't know where you would kind of meet them again. Interesting. So now, if you move on to say the next stage of life, which is the mid-management career, a lot of them grow well in the initial stages, but they see stagnation. I mean, sometimes they see it for themselves, or they actually get stuck in the mid-management role profile, so to say. What are your thoughts on how people could manage things early on to kind of avoid this, I would say, hurdle in their overall career?
So I think the first thing that anybody should do through the course of their career, not just mid-management, especially at the mid-management level though, is firstly recognizing what is career stagnation. So many people don't even realize that they don't even realize they have stagnated till it's too late. Okay, so realizing and having that level of self-awareness. And how do you realize that? Are you doing repetitive tasks over and over again? Are you being overlooked for promotions? Are you doing, are you just interacting with the same set of people? Are you just doing the same role within the same project over a period of time, right? And you're not growing beyond a point. So I feel like firstly recognizing career stagnation is a very important thing for people, and once they have recognized that this is what has happened, then it is really important to take ownership and not be a victim, because many people in that zone or in that period of stagnation, right? Look, careers are not always vertical, like we are going to grow fast, we all
Correct.
going to become CTOs, CEOs.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
there will be periods of time where you will not grow basis how you want to grow, and there will be a period of stagnation. And at that point of time, it is very important to take an ownership mindset and not a victim mindset. Oh, I'm not being given the exposure, I'm not being asked to do this, I'm not being asked to take on that big assignment.
Correct,
Or
correct.
somebody junior has been given this. Oh, because is there a certain bias that is creeping in the organization? Maybe I shouldn't have stayed in too long. If I would have changed, I would have got a better deal. So there
Yeah.
could be multiple victim mindsets.
Yeah.
Do not let yourself go into that spiral. Take ownership. And how do you take ownership? There could be periods where you'll have to start from scratch in new projects. Volunteer for that. You may not be the most experienced person in the new project. You may have to talk to a few people to understand the nuances. Put your ego aside, do that. So volunteering for stretch assignments, volunteering for global assignments, volunteering for different kind of new technologies and projects that are coming in, upskilling definitely. I think those are very, very important things to do to make sure that you are on a continuous learning curve, which continues to inspire self-confidence, and then eventually, you just get out of that period of stagnation and you are back from a growth standpoint.
So Nidhi, finally, this is a question for our, I would say, HR and recruitment fraternity. A lot of times, a young recruiter comes into the job or into the career, saying that this is the start of my career, I'll end up in HR. Since you have kind of made that journey, can you share perspectives of, is it really necessary to transition into HR, or how really can people build their careers in recruitment, in HR from a long-term view? Since you have kind of seen both the things and also seen the transition, so your insights will really be very interesting.
Yeah, I think it is firstly, recruiting is a very, very integral part of HR. I do not see recruitment any different to outside, that it is outside of HR. So it's a very integral part of HR. It's the backbone of HR. Just look at what kind of people we bring into the organization. Recruiting plays a very pivotal part. With those people comes the culture. How do you, what kind of culture are you building in the organization? How do you assess people? How do you make the organization successful by hiring the right people? So recruiting is the backbone as well as a very, very fundamental part of HR. And by talking to a diverse set of candidates, by talking to a diverse set of clients, by talking to a diverse set of stakeholders, which you have to do to get the right people in, look at the skills that you are building. So I see that as a very integral part of HR. Now, if people feel that they can build a more holistic career on the foundation of recruiting, that's very much possible, because like I said, you learn a lot of skills.
Correct.
But does one really want to do that if you're really passionate about recruitment? I have seen many people in my career or in my professional network who love recruiting, who do not want to be the CHRO, who do not want to do a business partner work or comp work. For them, recruiting is a very integral part of what they do on a day-to-day basis, and if they're passionate about that, it's okay to build a career in recruitment. It's okay to continue to help organizations scale. There'll always be demand for that. It's the place where you can use the maximum technology. It's the place in HR that is quantifiable, where your numbers are quantifiable as to what you have actually done. So I think it's a very great place if somebody is truly passionate to build their career within recruitment itself. So there should be no pressure to make the change. The desire to make the change, and I'm saying the desire, not the pressure. The desire to make the change is if you want to try different facets of HR, if you want to learn different things. Then what is it that you have enjoyed about recruitment that you can learn in other aspects of HR? Was it talking to candidates? Was it talking to managers?
Yeah.
Was it doing the analytics and the dashboard and the recruiting numbers? Or was it going and branding your organization externally? Was it doing campus? What part of recruiting did you really enjoy, which can be a very good pivot point as to what you can do in other aspects of HR? Talking to people, you can be a HR business partner. Analytics and compensation, if you've truly enjoyed the crunching numbers, automation, if you have brought in new systems and processes. So think about your desires, think about your passion, and then after that you can pivot to other aspects of HR, but it's not a necessity, it's a great function to be if you truly like doing this.
Thanks, Nidhi. First of all, thanks for your time, and it was a great conversation. Apart from the fact that there were a lot of learnings, at least for me, actually I kind of went through this journey of my college, interview, career, and so on and so forth. So I think I really enjoyed this conversation because I could kind of traverse that journey as we were talking as well.
Yeah.
So thanks for your time.
Thank you. It was wonderful talking to you. Great opportunity to be here, and I hope it's helpful to the student fraternity, to the HR fraternity, and I'm always available if there are questions.
Now that brings us to the end of this episode of Architects of Great Talent. For our listeners, whether you are just starting your career, experienced professionals, or the recruiter who make it happen for them, we hope this conversation really helped you see the first job from a very different perspective and how people take decisions around it. We'll be back soon with more voices from across the hiring world. Until then, take care, and thanks for tuning into Architects of Great Talent by Careernet Group.